Right, hello everyone. Welcome to our April QABC. Hopefully everyone's having a good April so far. You know, with things, you know, slowly starting to open up. You know, we're actually, you know, getting to see more people now. So yeah, hopefully everything's going well for everyone. Yeah, welcome along. This is all our information. You know, our Twitter, our Instagram, and also our Facebook as well. Also, we've got a Slack group as well, a Slack channel. So jump on that. Chris can probably give you the details later on anyway. Okay, so we've got some code of conduct. This is a safe space for everyone. If you need to report anything, have a chat with myself, Gabby, or Chris. We want everyone to be welcome and be respectful to each other. If you do break the rules, you will be banned from future events. But I doubt that. But we just want to put it in place that, you know, we do have our own code of conducts. So yeah, give us a shout if you need anything. Right. So this month we're going to have Gabby talking. So Gabby's going to go through and she's going to be doing a presentation on how to write a good CV. So I'm going to hand over to Gabby in a minute. We've also got Cameron Hunter, who's our guest speaker. So you should be able to see him, he's waving there. So we'll have Gabby do her presentation, then we'll have a short break, and then we'll have Cameron go through. If you get any questions, just pop them in the chat, and we'll take it from there. So yeah, that's me. Over to you, Gabby. Do I stop sharing now?
Yeah, perfect. I think I should be able to jump in.
Cool. I am going to drop off my volume and video. Give me a shout if anyone needs anything.
Brill. Can everybody see my screen? Yes. Perfect. So what I'm going to have a bit of a chat about today is kind of how to write a great CV and what the do's and don'ts are. Obviously, I've kind of tailored this more to a junior level because I know that's obviously the target audience here. But I would say most of the things that I'm going to touch upon would be across the board, even if you get, you know, more experience down the line as well. So the first thing I think is really important to kind of accept is, you know, there's only so much that you can do with a CV, and there's only so much you can sell yourself on a piece of paper or a digital piece of paper, if you will. So I like to think of a CV as more of a tool to kind of open doors or gain interview requests, somewhere that you can kind of sell yourself, so you can sell yourself further. So obviously, we still need our CV to be the best it possibly can be. But yeah, as I say, it is something just to open doors. So that's why you want to get some detail on there, but obviously be expanding on that massively when you get the chance to speak to people face to face. I'm also going to touch a little bit on kind of social media in the job hunt and personal branding. Now, with those two things, I've got quite a more detailed other talk that I can maybe do at a later date just to run through that. But I'll touch upon it a little bit here as well. So first things first, starting with the basics. And I think this is one of the most important things, to be honest, is looking at keeping your CV with a simple layout. So I might be stating the obvious here, but you would be so surprised how many people mess up on the basics of their CV. So simple things like keeping the font size not too big, not too small, consistent font size throughout, just again prevents it from looking messy, making sure that you're covering all key info on there, covering your skills, education, interests, skills that you're currently picking up. Obviously your work history is key in there as well. And when I say simple layout, I think it's really important as well to kind of keep minimal images on there. Now that might be controversial. People, there we go, perfect example of the dog. People might think that it is better to have, you know, an all singing, all dancing, jazzy CV. And I think in certain sectors that may play to your strengths, you know, if you're looking for something a bit more creative. But I think for a tech CV, to try and keep it quite simple and to leave images off. I see quite a lot of the time people put images of themselves on there. I'm really not a big fan of that. I don't necessarily think that that's needed. And even things like the ISTQB logo, I think if you state in writing that you've done your ISTQB, but I wouldn't worry about putting the logo on. And the reason that I say that, and you might not know this, is a lot of clients and companies will use an ATS, which is an applicant tracking system. So your CV will be uploaded to that platform, and sometimes various or crazy formats and layouts can pull through, and it just ends up leaving a really bad first impression when people are reviewing your CV. Now, another reason why, I would implore you to kind of leave off images, but also things like your date of birth, marital status. I've seen CVs that people put how many kids they've got, if they're divorced, like a lot of, information that I really wouldn't worry about putting on there. And some of that can also promote in the hiring manager or recruiter unconscious bias. So unconscious bias, for those that don't know, is similar to implicit bias. So it's basically underlying attitudes and stereotypes that people attribute to another person or a group of people, and that in turn affects how they understand and engage them. So this is not necessarily the hiring manager or the recruiter being outright discriminatory or being biased, anything like that. It's something that's underlying, and certain things that you put on your CV that aren't necessarily might promote that. So really just something to be aware of. CV format. For me, and again, I'm going to keep saying this is my opinion because it is just my opinion, but it is feedback I've had from hiring managers. We can kind of get Chris and Ken's thoughts on this later, but I prefer kind of a simple Word document, to be honest, just keeping it simple, as I say. And again, that pulls through best on this applicant tracking systems that are out there. Spell check, really, really obvious one, but again, you'd be so surprised. People really do fall down in this area. And I completely understand, there'd be various reasons why that might happen. For example, people might not have English as their first language, or they might be dyslexic. There's many, many reasons, completely understandable. But what I would just implore people to do is use the spell checking systems on the likes of Word. I'm sure there's more advanced ones out there that you can kind of have set on your browser, and get a friend or a family to read through your CV as well. Just get a second pair of eyes on that. All of this contributes to the fact that first impressions are so key. You're not getting a chance to meet people face to face and sell yourself. The CV needs to open the door for you. So don't fall down on silly things like spell checking, especially in tests as well. Don't know if Ken would agree with this, but a hiring manager in test, you're looking for attention to detail, and poor spelling, poor grammar, it's not going to go down well. And then another super, super simple one is contact details. If you're going to be putting your CV out there because you're looking for a job, make sure that you've got your contact details on there. Make sure you've not left a digit out of your number, or you've typed your email address wrong, or just simply not put any contact details on there. Again, you would be so surprised how many times I see that. So moving on from there, obviously talking about the content of your CV and what's important to put in there. As a junior, I would say one of the most important things on your CV is going to be your opening kind of personal statement. So this is where you are really going to be selling yourself. If you've not got the commercial experience, this is where you're going to be, really bigging up your transferable skills. So, you've not maybe done testing before, but you've got skills from retail or whatever it is that you may do that will be transferable into test. So you're essentially providing context for your application. If you simply send through your CV, and I'm using career changes as kind of an example for this, and you're currently in retail, and you're not really putting anything on your CV as to why you're looking to get into testing, then, it quite understandably, the hiring manager might just think it's an accidental application, or you've just applied and you're not really paying attention. So yeah, just really selling yourself there. And I think, it doesn't need to be huge, short and sweet, focusing on enthusiasm, paragraph or so, just explaining why you're looking to pursue this career path and what you can bring to the table. And also consider keywords. So a lot of recruiters will use kind of keyword searches to find CVs. So dropping in key terms, simple things like software testing, ISTQB, agile, things that are going to kind of pull you up in these recruiters' searches. So moving on from your personal statement, I would link then into your kind of skills and technologies area. And again, I know that if you're trying to get your first role in testing, you might not have a great deal to put here. So this is where you would maybe talk about any skills or knowledge that you've picked up from self-study, and just be trying to get those keywords in again. But it's so important to not oversell yourself and just list a load of different kind of methodologies and tools that you've actually not got experience with, because the hiring manager, that they are going to realize that. And if you do get yourself to phone interview or face-to-face interview, it's going to be awkward if they're asking you about something you're claiming to have experience with and you just don't have that in-depth knowledge. Fair enough if you've got only a little bit of knowledge and you want to mention it, but I would kind of highlight next to it like entry level or basic. I just think it's so important to be honest at this point and not to oversell yourself, because it's gonna kind of all come out in the wash, if you will. So moving on from there, I think that links quite nicely into work history. Really simple stuff, just make sure that this is laid out clearly with dates of your employment clear, type up a detailed but a fairly brief list of your responsibilities, as well as responsibilities. I think it's really nice to actually put on there key achievements as well. So anything that you have kind of contributed to a role or brought to the table. I think hiring managers really like to kind of see where people have contributed outside the kind of normal requirements of a role. And again, you can still write about achievements that aren't in IT specific roles. It just maybe would link into being, I'm someone that goes above and beyond, or I like to take on a challenge. So yeah, just a CV is the perfect place to be selling yourself as best as you can. So moving on from work, just on work history as well, actually, if you are doing any freelance or voluntary work, I know Ken's mentioned a few times before now, kind of placements, free placements that companies might do, this is where you would mention that under the work history kind of umbrella there. So education, again, super simple stuff like just listing it clearly. We quite often get people that have maybe done degrees but then don't put the grade. I kind of understand if you've maybe got a grade that you're not super happy with, but they're probably going to ask anyway, so I think just get the information on there. And then add any ongoing training here as well. So ongoing kind of certifications that you're doing, studying for ISTQB, I think as a junior would be a great one to get on there. I know not everyone's a big fan of the ISTQB, and there's a lot of mixed opinions out there of how important it is and how valid it is as a kind of modern day tester. But if you've got it, at least make sure that you're shouting about it on your CV. And I know that, there's a lot to balance in your current jobs and your personal life, but any self-study that you can do and put on your CV, it's just going to help you stand out from the crowd so much. Linking into interests as well. So I personally love reading people's interests and hobbies on their CV. It's a great chance to add in a bit of personality, stand out from the crowd a little bit, make you kind of sing up just above the CV instead of it just being all very kind of wordy and work focused. Sprinkle in that personality, but if you can link it back to the roles you're applying for. So for example, I attend software testing events like QABC, or I keep up to date with the latest tech news. There's little things that you can slip in there as well. That again, is just really going to highlight that passion and enthusiasm. Other things to consider as well, like I said, I'll probably touch upon this again in a bit more of a detailed follow-up talk, but linking to your social media presence is all. I don't know what that is. That's coming muted. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so linking to your social media presence. So social media is increasingly being used by. Oh, can everyone hear that? Oh, there we go, stopped again. If you're not on mute, by the way, guys, if you just pop yourself on mute, just so there's no feedback. Yeah, so social media is increasingly being used by professionals who are passionate about what they do and want to kind of share their knowledge and thoughts with others. So if you are someone who is maybe talking about testing on Twitter, or you've got a GitHub profile, or you blog, or you're on YouTube, put that on your CV. That's the utopia almost, to kind of get that information on there. And I think that again is going to help you stand out from the crowd. Again, being professional is key, but don't be afraid to mix in a bit of personality with that as well. So if you're not already doing it, maybe have a look at making a Twitter account for work, or making a GitHub account, or blogging. This is really, and I'm sure Cameron may expand on this a little bit about his journey into test, but I think this will massively help. Sorry, let me just try and distract this dog. Lola. So another way that you can kind of use social media in the job hunt is, and this works kind of best on LinkedIn or Twitter, if you've got an upcoming interview, or even before that, if you've made an application, find the hiring manager, find the interviewer, find the recruiter for the role, and connect with them. And this is just going to show that you've done your research, you're actually super keen and passionate about the role, and you can do a little bit of a background check or a little bit of social media stalking on the hiring manager, and you might actually be able to find something interesting about them, you know, what team they support, or have they wrote a blog recently, and you can drop that into your interview, and that's going to leave such a powerful lasting impression. So obviously, to kind of follow up on all this, I would implore you, you know, do use my knowledge, do use Chris's knowledge and Ken's knowledge. My email address is on the screen there. Happy to do a CV health check for anyone that's interested. Pop me over your CV as it is, and I'll, you know, be brutally honest. So be prepared to maybe have some constructive feedback, and I'll help you out and make sure that CV is looking as best as it possibly can be. Just want to add on as well, kind of linking nicely into that. So I work for the recruitment agency Searchability, and Searchability has kind of launched a new product or aspect to the business called Click Starters. Obviously, as everyone knows, tech has a massive problem with pipeline and obviously just too many jobs, not enough candidates out there. And a lot of that is about like kind of lack of juniors coming into the industry. So Click Starters is basically all around trying to get aspiring candidates to take their first step into a career in tech. And it's not just testing, it's dev, it's infrastructure, it's kind of everything across the spectrum. And as part of that, we have got a free CV build tool at Click Starters. So if you've not got a CV at all, or you just want to start one from fresh, check out that tool, because that's been shaped with recruiters' opinions and hiring managers' opinions. And I think that's a really good starting point for anyone that's kind of struggling. Other than that, that is kind of all of my very kind of base level basic tips. Obviously happy to expand on them personally if people want to reach out, or definitely can take some questions now as well if anyone has got any. And that is me.
Cheers, Gabby. That was great. Do we have any questions for Gabby? I've got a couple for you, Gab.
Yes.
In your experience, how long would you say a CV should be? How many pages long?
Yeah, so this is quite a widely kind of disputed topic, to be honest. Some people, you know, they think it's absolutely crazy if anyone's got a CV above 3 pages and it's sacrilege. I don't really think I have got a strict hard and fast rule on how long it should be. I just think just make sure everything that is in there is relevant. If it's all relevant and it's long, that's fine. If it's not relevant, cut some bits and pieces out. So yeah, it depends. You know, you've got some people that might have contracted for 10 years, then naturally they're gonna have a longer CV. But as a junior, I would say you can probably get everything you want to say, including a nice chunky opening statement, probably across kind of 2-3 pages max.
That's great. That's good. Yeah, I've seen CVs where it's like 11 pages long. And wow. It's difficult to get someone's experience from that, because it's just quite a lot of different things on there. So I don't struggle with anything bigger than 3 coming through 3 pages.
Yeah, I think 11 is quite excessive.
I've had quite a few of them.
Yeah, I think Penny's popped a question in here as well. So how do you suggest handling an employment gap? Yeah, so I would just say with that, always reference it and leave it, because I think if people don't make some kind of reference to why the employment gap was there, or give a bit of context, it's tough because it's such a candidate-driven market, and if you don't reference it, I personally wouldn't do this, but there will be people out there that will just see a gap and just be like, right, on to the next, because there's no context and it's just easier for me to find out from another candidate. So yeah, I would just say, put the detail in there and say you're happy to expand on it on the phone, and just be very honest about it. You know, if you've had time off to raise your kids, then that is a, you know, very usual, noble thing, and we need to get more women in tech, so we shouldn't be discriminating because of that. Fabulous. I don't think we've got any more questions. We said what we'll probably do as well is have a little bit of a, chat at the end, and just obviously expand on it a little bit more with Ken and Chris's opinions, if they've got anything that they like to see on CVs that I've not touched upon. But yeah, no, I think that's everything on my end.
That was absolutely brilliant. I think, do we want to take a quick, just 5 minutes, then we'll hand over?
Yeah, perfect.
That sounds good. Let's take 5 minutes and then we'll come back with our guest speaker, Cameron.
Fab.
And that I shall also sort out that Slack link. I don't know why it's saying it's not active. Leave that with me. Right, okay.
Reaction if you want some McDonald's, guys. That's good. You've got something in here, out there. Okay, that in back word.
All right, I think, is everyone ready? Shall we crack on? It's been about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I know it says 15 minutes, but yeah, might as well crack on.
Yeah, that was more for when we were in person and people were like having a beer and a bit of pizza. But yeah, I think when you're at home, you don't quite need as long.
That's true. All right, cool. So welcome back, everyone. This next part, we've got a guest speaker on. So it's going to be Cameron Hunter. To be honest, I'm not going to read any of this out. You'll probably go in through all these details yourself, Cameron. So yeah, I'll hand off to you.
Yeah. Great, thanks, Ken. Can I share my screen, please? Just have some slides that I can show. Thank you. Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Cameron. Thanks, Gabby, for asking me to come and do this talk. It was a bit odd preparing for it because normally I'd be preparing for talking about a new testing technology or something specific to the project that I'm working on. But this time the talk's all about me. So hopefully my head doesn't inflate to the size of a balloon. And if it does, please let me know. So like on the previous slide, I've just put my experience here. And as you can see, I was an accountant for 6 years and 5 months before I became a tester. And you're probably wondering why I made that switch. But first, I'll just sort of rewind a bit back to when I was doing my GCSEs. So I did pretty well at GCSEs, got the grades that I wanted. So then I went on to do my A-levels, and during my A-levels, I spent a bit too much time chasing girls and drinking at the weekends, and I didn't get the grades that I needed to get into university. So instead of going through clearing and trying to get into a different uni or resitting my A-levels, I decided I'd just get a job and just start earning some money. So my first job was actually a warehouse, and I didn't put that on LinkedIn, and it's not on this slide, which you're probably not surprised about. But whilst I was at this warehouse, I was thinking, what on earth am I going to do with my life? And because I was good at maths at school, I decided I'll just go into accountancy, because it's kind of the typical thing that if you're good at maths, you just go into accountancy. So I got this job, Harris & Co. It's a nice little company, lots of friendly people working there. And for the first few years, my friends were still at university, so I was just sort of easing into work life, still drinking a lot, chasing girls a lot. But eventually, I started learning the ropes and started sort of getting to grips with what the role of an accountant was. And I started to realize that there were some things that were demanded of me as an accountant, some key skills that the role demanded of me, and there was some skills that I had that the role didn't demand of me. And I was just realizing that this job wasn't the best job for me, and I started looking elsewhere for other jobs, just to see what was out there, just to see if there is another job that kind of suits me better. And the things that I noticed, I've sort of put them in a list here, and I'm wondering if any of you in the crowd can sort of relate to this. So just to walk you through them, I took a lot of pride in getting things right. This is something that was required in accountancy, but I noticed that some people didn't take pride in getting things right. They just saw it as a necessity of the job. There were some people who didn't enjoy getting things right, and I wanted to sort of leverage this in my new role, because I could tell that this was kind of something that wasn't what everyone had. I was desperate to learn all the time. This is something, I'm a very inquisitive person, and I'm always wanting to learn new things. At work, I was always trying to jump on any opportunity to learn a new bit of software or learn a new technique, you know, in the job. And accountancy is a job where it's very process driven. So once you learn all the processes, which took me many years to learn these processes of, you know, writing a set of accounts and taking it through to completion. But once you learn all these processes, all you're left with is memorizing tax rates, and you just have a lot of memorization after that. And I wanted to be learning stuff all the time, so I was trying to just grab hold of any sort of learning that was available. So if there's a new accounting software that came in, I'd just try and learn all the ins and outs of it and become an expert. And it wasn't really appreciated in the role. And I also noticed that people weren't. It didn't seem that common. Like my colleagues didn't seem to be this interested in learning all the time. I wanted to work in a team atmosphere. So in my role as an accountant, if you're working with someone else, it's because you're not able to do your job. You sort of you're meant to have your own clients, produce a set of accounts, and if you need help, if you're not able to do it yourself, then you go ask someone for help, and that's where the collaboration comes in. But it was kind of looked down on because you're costing the client more money by asking for help. And the closest we got to team work was if you go out auditing a client, you go out as a team, but really you're all given your own sections, and it's not proper teamwork. I've always enjoyed using computers. I used to play a lot of computer games, and I absolutely loved getting to know software. I just loved like exploring all the menus and things like that. Yeah, so these things kind of led me to software testing. So I was looking around on the internet, and software is quite an obvious option if you like computers. And the difference between software development and software testing, why didn't I try and become a developer? Well, I took a lot of pride in getting things right. So I didn't see development as following that sort of ethos. And software testing, it's quality assurance. If you take pride in getting things right, you're really valuable as a quality assurance person. And yeah, I knew software would involve constant learning. You're always getting introduced to new technologies. And I think those that are willing to learn do well. And I could see that from the research that I was making on the internet. Team atmosphere, agile. As soon as I saw agile, when I was looking around on the internet, I just thought, as if people work like this, as if you have these self-managing teams where it's probably more Scrum than Agile I'm talking about. If you have these self-managing teams where everyone's sort of independent but working together and they're all interdependent on each other, it sounded like a dream, and that was one of the key selling points for software for me. Yeah, so I could see that it was a high demand industry with low barriers to entry. Gabby's mentioned this in the last talk. We need more people in software, and you can see it from there's articles out there saying it, and yeah, Gabby's talk earlier kind of sort of fosters that. Yeah, so once I kind of decided on software testing, I just had to pluck up the courage to do it. I think it's hard to make the decision to change career, especially when you've kind of sort of settle down into a role. And I think if you can see that you're like a square peg trying to fit into a circular hole, and if you relate to any of these points here, then I think you should probably go for it. And I would say I don't regret it. So yeah, so what did I do to make the switch? Well, I've listed some sort of key points here, and hopefully these are of use to people. So I did a lot of Googling to start with, just researched as much as I could about the role. I think if you don't know the ins and outs of what it is to be a software tester, I think you're going to fall down in interviews. You can't hide the fact you've never been a software tester, but I think the more you read prior to getting the job, the better. And I'm involved with the recruitment process at the company I work at now, and if we get candidates through that obviously don't know what the role is, maybe they're competent, but if they don't really know what the day-to-day is of the role, it's very hard to recruit them, because you don't know that if they're going to leave after 3 months because the job isn't what they expected. So I think if you are going to make the switch, you need to know as much as possible about what the role is. And you can get that from, I read a lot of information from Guru99. It just cropped up all the time. And I probably read the whole website before I even got a job as a software tester. And there's a lot of information on there. Other resources like YouTube, you can get videos about, what is it like to be a software tester? What is Agile? It just goes on and on. Another thing is that ISTQB. Even if you don't take the ISTQB, they've still got past papers on the internet. So you could, past papers or sample papers, practice papers, and you can see what the testable skills are of a software tester as per the ISTQB. Really useful stuff. Meetups. So I learned very quickly that you need to attend meetups. On the one hand, you can add them to your CV, so you look like you're making a conscious effort to engage with the industry and to make the switch. It's not just this half-hearted thing where you're sort of applying to lots of different industries. But also when you go to the meetups, you meet people in the industry, you meet like-minded people, and well, hopefully like-minded people. You meet software people, and you'll get to know what they think about the job. You'll get to quiz them, and I think that's really important. And it really helped me in the start to, for one, it helped me to confirm that it was the right choice. And two, I think it did help me with sort of getting to grips with what I need to do. Yeah, so transferable skills. So I think it was really important. Again, Gabby's mentioned this in the previous talk. Even if you haven't been a software tester, I think you could generally make most jobs look relevant to a software testing role. Accountancy, for example. For me, I could describe that just as a software testing role. When I went out to audit clients, I checked that people were doing their work correctly, and they use computers. So I was effectively testing the results that people were producing on computers. And if you could just think through that sort of lens and put this on your CV, I think it'll go a long way to helping you get that sort of foot in the door and getting an interview. Passion and enthusiasm. It's really difficult changing careers. It's really difficult applying for jobs, but if you don't show passion and enthusiasm, you're not going to get employed. you might be down because your current job isn't what you want. You might be in a bad situation, but if you don't look happy in the interview, yeah, they're not going to want to employ you. So yeah, show passion, enthusiasm. I thought it was a key struggle when I was trying to switch careers, so I thought I'd put that down. And perseverance, that's kind of tied in the same thing there. It took me probably about 4 months of trying before I got my new job, 3 or 4 months, and it was tough, but you'll see people spending longer trying to get a job in other industries. Again, software is this high demand industry, and if you're trying to get a junior software testing role, you won't be looking at years, I don't imagine. So with all those things in mind, then I ended up with 2 roles simultaneously that were offered to me, and I got to pick the one I liked the look of best, which was great, and that was Liquid Logic. And yeah, so just sort of talk about what it's like being a tester. So once I joined Liquid Logic, I was desperate to prove myself. You started a new career. You need to sort of make up all that lost time and make sure those transferable skills actually mean something, and you can sort of accelerate through the career a bit faster than everyone else. And I realized after a few months that all my hard work was paying off, and I think you can have a fast start in software if you work hard, if you have a bit of luck on your side. For me, I joined Liquid Logic, and they didn't have any unit testing. They didn't have any sort of automated testing to speak of, and because of that, there was a lot of bugs, and there was a lot of need for testing. And yeah, so I had a lot of opportunities to work hard and learn new things because they needed me, basically. And as long as you're a yes man and say yes to everything, you can grab new opportunities really easily. And for me, well, one of these opportunities was interfacing between colleagues. So what I mean by this is, as a tester, you're sandwiched between in some environments, you're sandwiched between developers and product. And you might find that sometimes developers need a little bit of help with getting to grips with acceptance criteria when there's no product people there, or you might find that product analysts or product owners, they're either absent or they haven't written very good acceptance criteria. And as a tester, you can sort of expand your sphere of influence or sphere of sort of opportunity, and you can start helping these people out and taking part in these decisions, and that will help you progress. So yeah, so I do recommend, if you do get these opportunities, don't just say no, that's your job. You can actually help people out, and I think you'll be a better tester because of it. And I think what follows on from this is I very quickly, from being a yes man and helping developers out and stuff, I got involved with APIs, and so things like these XMLs that you see, these API contracts where maybe your application is communicating with another application. I started getting involved with testing these things, and if you haven't been involved in software before, you probably don't know much about APIs. You probably don't know that it's quite a big part of software. And I think it's worth pointing out that maybe you could do some preliminary reading and just start to sort of take your understanding a bit further, because it's sort of like you don't know what you don't know kind of thing with this. And databases as well. Got involved with SQL and querying databases and testing in that way. And I think that's kind of what really pushed me forward, because this is the sort of stuff that usually takes quite a long time to get involved with in testing. And I think if you do get involved with these things, I think it'll push you forward. Yeah, and that kind of really did open doors for me. So just to talk about these sort of last 2 points here. So like I said before, when I was accountant, I was thinking this agile sounds amazing. And Liquid Logic, when I applied there, when I was in the interview, they said, yeah, we do agile. And actually, it wasn't agile. It's what some people call wagile. They had agile processes, but they weren't entirely agile. And I think it's kind of it is quite relevant in the software industry. You do have agile companies and waterfall companies, and you might not realize that there is quite a difference between the two if you kind of go to the extremes of one side or the other. And if you're applying for a job, you might notice that now I've told you this, that some of these jobs will be in different methodologies. And agile, just to, I don't know how much the assumed knowledge is here, but agile is, small teams of self-managed people who have quick delivery cycles, quick release cycles, and you tend to have more testing. You tend to have more automated testing, so things tend to run a lot smoother, hopefully. And waterfall is longer release cycles, so you might find deadlines overrun, and you might find a lot of manual testing, and it's usually on older applications. And yeah, so to talk about application age, at Liquid Logic, it was an old application. It was something like 20 years old. And you have this sort of big lumbering code base that's crawling along, and it's not been built from the ground up with unit tests and integration tests and stuff. And because of that, there was lots of bugs. So whenever I did testing, I would find bugs everywhere. And it just wasn't possible for the developer to foresee all these bugs that were just coming from all over the place. And it was really good for me, because I got to do a lot of useful work, and testers were valued quite a lot in this company, because we were finding all these bugs that just wouldn't be found without all this manual testing. But I did want to go to agile, so I applied to Answer Digital, the company I work for now. They do try and sell themselves as an agile company who deliver these modern solutions. And yeah, so I ended up getting into Answer Digital, and it's been great. It's been a very different experience, and I recommend both sides of the sort of the world of software, at least from a career perspective. I think maybe from a business perspective, you probably want to try and do more agile, but that's a different discussion. Yeah, so I hope this is useful to people. I wanted to have these key takeaways that sort of guided the talk, and I haven't had a long illustrious career like I did watch one of the previous talks, and there was this woman who had decades of experience. For me, I think it's still fresh in my head, the switch from accountant to software tester, and a lot of these methodologies still seem really novel to me. So yeah, I thought it'd be useful to highlight these things. Yeah, so that's it. Make the switch. I think if you are considering it and this sort of resonates with you, I encourage you to change careers. Thank you. Stop sharing.
Thank you for that, Cameron. That was absolutely amazing. Yeah, any sort of guest speakers who have any sort of knowledge, anything how they got into testing is absolutely valuable. So that's absolutely perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I think it's super relatable for a lot of people, you know, your story and the fact that you're still quite fresh into it, because I think that's where a lot of people are at the moment. One kind of question I have, and you kind of touched upon it at the end, but would you say that you kind of have regrets for going to Liquid Logic, because maybe they weren't doing things in the best way, or do you just kind of see that as part of your journey and you were just glad to kind of get the foot in the door?
Yeah, so no, I think I could have stayed at Liquid Logic, in all honesty. I thought it was a great company to work for. It was great working. This idea of working in a team, I think, even though we weren't in these small agile teams or these small scrum teams, we still had these release days where everyone's together working towards this release. And it was a great feeling working towards these big releases. And yeah, the people were great. So no, I don't regret it. I think from an academic perspective, in software, I think continuous delivery and continuous integration is the way to go, but that's more of a sort of an academic point of view, not really relevant to sort of career.
Yeah, you can't be too choosy with the first role, can you? You know, to a certain extent, it's that kind of gratefulness of someone's giving you that first shot. But like you say, that doesn't mean then that you can't, you know, down the line move to somewhere now you've got a bit more knowledge, like you have with Answer, that perhaps is doing things a bit more by the book. So yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would have enjoyed staying at Liquid Logic. Yeah, definitely.
I was going to ask as well, and this is kind of open to Ken and Chris, but you did mention that you get involved with recruitment at Answer. So other than kind of what I mentioned in regards to kind of CV do's and don'ts, have you got any particular personal kind of either pet peeves or things that you like to see on a CV that I've maybe not touched upon? Or just any kind of insight around that from a hiring manager point of view?
For me, so I'm not looking at it from a manager perspective. I'm usually kind of a second in interview, and what I sort of think is really important is positive attitude. They want you to be a good part of your team, so they want you to be a good part of their team, and it don't matter what your skills are on paper. If they don't think you're going to get on with the people in that team, then it's not going to be a good start, really. Yeah, that's what sticks out in my head.
Yeah, so like almost what you lack in experience make up in passion and enthusiasm, really.
Yeah, enthusiasm. Yeah, conscientiousness. You want to look like you're going to produce results for the company as well, and yeah, demonstrate that you do know what the job is and you're interested in the job. So I think if you make faux pas in any of those areas, it's almost a straight away like, no, like if I don't enjoy talking to this person, do I really want them on my team, sort of thing.
Definitely.
I think, you know, what you were saying there, Cameron, also reflects what Gabby said earlier on about knowing a company when you're going in for an interview. You know, it's an extremely important thing, is that if you're going for an interview with any company, you need to do your research into that company to actually understand what the company is. You know, and, you know, if you're as a junior going into, like, you know, a foundation role, you want to try and put that enthusiasm into, you know, saying, well, your company does this, X, Y, and Z, you know, and you can actually explain what they do. But yeah, I think that's a great thing that people should be doing for not just juniors, for any type of interview, is know who you're talking to, you know.
Because again, I actually agree with Ken. It's like, because they will ask you, like, what do you know about the company? If you've not done your research, and you're kind of going, yes, that's not a good sign. Sure, go on. Maybe they have done it and they're just trying to remember. But yeah, if they don't know, it's like, well, you come in here, but you don't know. You maybe know what we do, but you don't know the right. How did we start? Who, like, where our founding fathers, stuff like that. It's like, yeah, it's easy to do research like that.
Yeah,
and especially if you are like a QA tester, then also shows a good sign of investigation, learning your facts, or getting to know a company. But I suppose like that's any kind of given as a basic before you go to interview is do your research.
Yeah, there's an interview that sticks out in my mind, which I'm not naming any names or anything, but
Wasn't me.
he didn't. We asked him, what were the day-to-day activities, which is something that we generally ask for, like a junior role. You know, what would you do if you need to raise a bug ticket, or what would you do if you had a new feature to test? How would you approach it? And he didn't really understand what a feature was. He didn't really understand what scripting was, and yes, he wasn't a tester. Like we would have employed him if he wasn't a tester. That's not the problem. He's obviously not read enough about the job before applying to even know what the basic responsibilities are of a tester. And you just, maybe in 3 months he's going to say, hang on a second, this is what the job is. I didn't know this is what the job would be like. And then he's just going to leave. So yeah, there's a lot of ways that they need to research the role.
Exactly. So again, if you do get, what I found during interviews is if there's something you don't know, don't be afraid to ask or say, sorry, I don't understand what you mean. Can you please explain more?
Yeah.
But then then the penny will point up and go, that's the examples where they said it as one terminology, but I've known it as another. And then you go, oh, you mean this? You go, yeah. It's like, well, but you refer it to that. Then you know, again, ask again as testers and QAs, asking questions till you get it right. So being quiet, sat there, kind of going, yeah. And then they ask you, like, what does that all mean? So yeah, just if you don't understand nothing or anything, just ask. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's actually works in your favor.
Yeah, and especially with a junior role, they just want a conversation with you, and they know they're going to have to fill in some of the blanks and bring you up to speed anyway.
I think Dean had a question, but I think it's already kind of been asked. Is there anything that stands out from your first successful interviews? Yeah,
so he asked me what stands out. I remember at Liquid Logic, the interview was we just got along really well, and it just to reiterate the point, they obviously they said, oh, we think you'd fit in with our team really well, and they just wanted to know if I had enough intelligence, if I was actually interested in the job, and also do I fit in with in the team. So yeah, I think you can only, if you prepare well enough in terms of researching the role, if you're passionate and enthusiastic, and that's the best you can do. And I think that interview was a good example of that. they just said, "Oh, we think you'll fit into the team really well," and that's when I knew I got the job, because they just look like they're having a good time talking to me.
I think as well, just to kind of expand on one of the points you made with perseverance as well, and it's interesting that you said that it took you 4 months or so, because I'm sure there's people that have, you know, maybe been looking for a few weeks or a month even and thought, you know, oh, well, if I've not got a job by now, I'm never going to get one. I think that's so important to realise that it might take a little while longer, especially when you're coming in at a junior level. So it can be demoralising, but perseverance is such a big part of it as well, definitely.
Yeah, I think what I'd say on perseverance is it's hard getting another job, and I think anyone who's changed career within their industry knows how hard it is to get another job, and that's one of the reasons why people stay in the same job for so long. But you can take a break every now and again. You could be applying for roles for, say, a month, and then just ease off for a week or two. If you know that it's not going to take you 1 month to get the job, if you now know that after we've kind of told you, then yeah, you get used to sort of taking a break and then going back to it, and it's like a job in itself is getting another job. So you're effectively working overtime, really.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe if you are like a month in and you feel like you're really banging your head against the wall, 2 months in, maybe have another look at your CV, give it a bit of a tweak, mix things around. You know, if you've in the meantime done another course, stick the other course on there. It's just like a constant.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. The meetups are a constant as well.
Yeah.
And I would say, I was talking to you, Gabby, when I was applying for roles back then, and I'd say asking the recruiter for advice is really important. Don't see the recruiter as like an adversary or something. Some of my best advice came from recruiters like yourself, Gabby. And let's say you do feel like you're stuck in a rut and you've been talking with recruiters and maybe you think they're not giving you any jobs because maybe that, I don't know, for whatever reason, you can just go say, hey, what can I do differently?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, always on hand to pass on advice. I'm always quite open with the fact that I don't get loads of junior roles because obviously companies at a junior level think that they can recruit directly and probably can do. So it's not necessarily that I'm going to be able to, you know, get you a job, but it's the kind of knowledge and giving you an insight into things where, you know, I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to help people. So obviously definitely do reach out if you need a hand with anything kind of job seeking whatsoever, really. Fabulous.
Okay, I think that's it. If anyone has any more questions at all? No, I guess not. All right, so let me just finish off. So we've added the Slack link into the channel. So yeah, join us on there. Send us messages. You know, we're going to start using a little bit more going forward in the future. So yeah, sign up for it. We've got our QA Twitter handle. We've got our Instagram and we've got Facebook. So have a look on them. Yeah, there you go. Thanks a lot, Cameron. That was a really great talk. And thank you, Gabby, for the CV building exercise. And as she said before, you know, if you want to get in touch, she can help you with CV and give you a little bit of advice on how to improve them as well. So yeah, give it a shout. Cool. Anything else from anyone else? I think I've got some chats. Bear with me 1 second. Okay. Cool. Thanks, Kelly. Lady. Yeah, that's fine. I'll pick this up with you separately. Cool. I think that's it. Cheers, guys.
Really?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gabby, and thank you, Cameron.
Cool. Cheers, guys.